9 spine-chilling secrets revealed. I married a sinister stranger, terrifying truths exposed. In the picturesque suburb of Maplewood, where the sun-drenched streets gleamed under neat rows of white picket fences, Lisa's life appeared perfect until the unraveling began. A creak of the floorboards echoed through the stillness of night, sending a frigid shiver down her spine. Every night, the comforting routine of family life twisted into something eerie. Tom, her husband, would return home later each evening, his eyes clouded with unspoken tension, his charming smile dimmed. What shadow lurked behind that familiar face she had once adored? Then, Fluffy, the neighbor's cat, went missing. Mere coincidence? A chilling sensation clung to Lisa a little too tightly each day. The neighbors, who once greeted her enthusiastically, now offered only cold, quick waves, their eyes darting nervously as if bound by a sinister secret. She couldn't shake the feeling that some horror lurked beneath their perfectly manicured lawns. She tried to dismiss her anxiety, convincing herself that it was just her mind playing tricks. But deep inside, something felt off. The whispers carried on the wind seemed to taunt her. Families had vanished from Maplewood, swallowed whole by darkness, and the tales woven in fear began to erode her reality. Had she turned a blind eye to the unsettling signs? The unsettling stories that swirled in hushed conversations around her said the town was cursed by an outsider who came years ago, a long-haired man whose presence heralded dread. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With each subtle oddity, the tension in her life crescendoed. Lisa couldn't help herself, she had to know more. Innocently striking up conversations in the park, she pressed other moms for details, each inescapable word edging closer to the terrifying truth. As they recoiled behind polite smiles, their whispered warnings sent icy tendrils creeping along her spine. "Stay cautious," they murmured, eyes flitting like frightened birds. What had she married? A chilling thought echoed with every flicker of doubt. While rummaging through the back of her closet one evening, she stumbled upon Tom's old jacket. Clutching it, she felt something bulky hidden inside. Her heart raced as she pulled out a weathered file a dark road long hidden from her. Yellowed papers, photographs of smiling faces forever lost, missing persons from Maplewood. With each face she recognized from the stories, dread coursed through her veins. "What have I married?" she gasped, barely breathing. The fabric of her life began to unravel as she faced Tom that night. The moment their eyes locked was electric, a mix of familiarity and the slip of darkness creeping closer. His smile faded, replaced by a predatory intensity that shattered her heart. Just as Lisa felt trapped in this macabre game of shadows, her phone rang, breaking the chilling silence. A blocked number flashed ominously. Fear gnawed at her core. Should she answer? The weight of her children's safety trapped her like a caged bird, and she hesitated, every instinct screaming that the sinister truth was just beginning to surface. Lisa's breath quickened as she stared at the phone, the screen pulsating in the dim light of the living room. Each second felt like an eternity, and her heart thudded loudly in her chest, a drumbeat of dread. Should she answer? Her gaze flicked to the clock on the wall, 11:17 p.m. Tom should be been home by now. The quiet house wrapped around her like a suffocating blanket, amplifying the sinister weight of the impending call. She grasped the phone tighter, her fingers trembling as she pressed the answer button. The connection clicked, and then a heavy silence followed, thick and oppressive. Her throat dried. "Hello?" she whispered, her voice barely rising above a breath. "Lisa." The voice sent a frigid wave through her. It was low, gravelly, and unfamiliar. "You need to listen carefully." Panic clawed at her throat. "Who is this?" A pause. "You need to ask Tom about the basement." The voice then faded into the static, a ghostly echo that left her shivering. The line went dead. Her heart sank. The basement? What could possibly be hidden down there? As if on cue, the front door creaked open, interrupting her spiraling thoughts. Tom entered, his figure outlined by the porch light, casting a long shadow into the hallway. He seemed different tonight, more rigid, eyes hard as stone. The pleasant aroma of his aftershave did little to mask the cold sweat on his brow. "Hey, you're back late," she said, forcing the casualness into her voice, though fear tightened inside her like a vice. Did he know? Sorry. Work dragged on. He glanced at her, and she could see something flicker in his gaze, irritation, maybe even anger. What's wrong? Nothing, just thought I heard something. She edged closer, looking into his eyes, searching for the man she loved. Did anything unusual happen today? He scoffed. You mean besides the usual? The same old gossip about Fluffy? People here love a good mystery. Tom, she pressed, I got a strange call just now. Someone mentioned the basement. What's down there? His expression shifted, the air around them thickening. Why would you ask that? Her pulse raced. Because I found a file. Pictures of people. Silence stretched between them, a taut wire ready to snap. Tom's jaw clenched, and for the first time in their marriage, she felt a chill radiating from him, one that didn't emanate from mere frustration. Please, Lisa. Just forget you saw it. You don't want to dig into this. A warning laced his voice, sharp as glass. Tom, I know something dark is happening here. Something dangerous. What are you hiding? Enough! He barked, stepping closer, the anger boiling in his blackened irises. Terror gripped her, sending icy fingers crawling up her spine. She wanted to run, to find refuge, but at that moment, she was rooted to the spot. Mom! Dad! A muffled shout came from upstairs. Eric and Mia, her children, sounding frantic. Stay here, Tom ordered, turning away, and marched toward the stairs. She followed instinctively, heart racing. As she reached the foot of the stairs, she caught a glimpse of something glinting in his hand, a knife, before the darkness swallowed him whole. Tom! Lisa screamed, the fear pooling in her stomach like poison. Then suddenly, with a loud crash, something fell in the basement, an echoing thud that sent a fresh wave of chills through her. Something was indeed hidden there, and tonight, it was coming to light. Should she run? Or should she follow him? She could feel the very walls of Maplewood closing in. The truth had clawed its way to the surface, and now, unfiltered chaos threatened to erupt. In that moment, she knew deep down that the shadow had come for them. With her heart hammering in her chest, she took a step towards the basement door, a decision straining against every survival instinct she had. Was she ready to uncover what lay beneath her home, beneath the man she loved? The darkness called to her. Lisa's heart raced as she gripped the doorknob, her mind swirling in a tempest of fear and confusion. The basement loomed below her, a dark abyss promising the answers she sought but threatening the very fabric of her family. Should she confront the truth, even if it shattered everything she held dear? The thud from below echoed again, sharper this time, as if something or someone awaited her in the depths. She hesitated, glancing up the dark staircase. The muffled cries of Eric and Mia persisted, clawing at her instincts. Tom had vanished into the shadows above, and he had taken the knife. Mom! Eric's voice broke through, tinged with an urgency that jolted her into motion. She couldn't abandon them. Whatever lay below could wait. With a determined breath, she turned and bolted up the stairs, every step pounding like a war drum in her chest. When she reached the hallway, the kids were huddled together in Mia's room, the light flickering as they peered wide-eyed at her. What's going on? Lisa gasped, kneeling to pull them into a protective embrace. The warmth of their bodies eased her trembling but tore at her heart. Where's your dad? Mom! He's acting weird, Mia cried, her small frame shaking against her. He went into the basement. Why? Lisa's voice trembled, anxiety gnawing at her. Something he didn't want us to see. Eric's eyes darted to the floor, unable to meet her gaze. Images of the photos swam in her mind, faces twisted in terror, the unholy secrets locked away in their home. Stay here. I'll go find him. Don't go down there, Mia pleaded, gripping Lisa's hand tightly. It's scary. Please! Fear coursed through Lisa, and she felt constricted between her children's terror and the pressing dread to uncover the truth. I have to, sweetie. I'll be right back. She forced a smile, promising words that she wasn't sure she could keep. With a shuddering breath, she turned back toward the basement door. The flickering light cast eerie shadows, turning the threshold into a gaping mouth waiting to swallow her whole. She pulled the door open, and a wave of musty air washed over her. Please come back. She heard her children whisper, but she couldn't turn back now. Descending the steps, each creak beneath her feet felt like a countdown. The darkness closed in, wrapping around her like a shroud, and she switched on the light. It cast a weak glow, illuminating the concrete walls, and revealed the raw, damp air heavy with secrets. The basement was an open expanse, a stark contrast to the cramped confines of the house above. Shadows danced in the corners, and the sound of a drip echoed ominously, breaking the heavy silence. Her eyes darted to the far side of the room, where a dark tarp lay stretched over something bulky. What had Tom concealed? She moved cautiously toward it, her heart hammering as she reached the edge of the tarp. An instinct screamed at her to turn back, to flee, but nothing could stop her curiosity now. Lifting a corner, she hesitated until her eyes widened in horror. Beneath the fabric were the remnants of something. Distorted shapes. Lisa, don't! Tom's voice called from the staircase, sharp as the knife in his hand. She spun, her pulse racing. What have you done? She flung the tarp back, revealing more than she was ready to see. Get away from there! He thundered, his figure blocking the light, dark and menacing. Tom, please! The words fell from her lips in desperation. What is this? In that moment, the ground felt like it was shifting beneath her, and shadows flickered with purposes she couldn't grasp. Come back upstairs, he said, menace threading through his calm. But the depth of his eyes betrayed chaos lurking beneath. The knife glinted again, and Lisa's instinct screamed for her to run. But she needed answers. She could sense the danger, but something was drawing her in. What's down here? She pressed, voice trembling against the weight of his gaze. Enough questions, he shouted, taking a step toward her. She stood frozen at the precipice of their lives, forced to choose between the truth and the man she had devoted herself to. As the shadows crowded closer, the chilling air hummed with the promise of terror. What would she uncover if she dared to step ever deeper into the unknown? Tell me, or I will find out myself, she challenged, her resolve hardening. And just then, the basement door slammed shut. Trapped between secrets and the man she thought she knew, Lisa felt the ground shatter beneath her feet. Something in the past was clawing its way back to life, and it wouldn't stop until everything was laid bare. What had Tom been hiding all along? The echo of the door slamming resonated through the basement, a sickening finality wrapping around Lisa like a tightening noose. Her breath caught in her throat as she turned back to Tom, desperation clawing at her insides. The shadows seemed to stretch and twist, mocking her fight for survival in the dim light. Tom, let me out! She pressed against the door, but it stayed stubbornly shut, an impenetrable barrier to her fleeing sanity. Do you really want to leave, Lisa? His voice held a strange blend of calm and menace, sending chilling shivers trailing down her spine. Maybe you should see what I've been keeping hidden. It's time for the truth. What are you talking about? She stammered, every instinct screaming at her to retreat. But she couldn't outrun this, whatever this was. Not anymore. You've lived in ignorance for too long. This is part of our life now. He stepped closer, the knife reflecting the dim light in his hand, transforming the fine edge into a sliver of terror. Lisa's heart raced, each pulse echoing like a drum of doom. What have you done, Tom? She whispered, stepping back, her pulse quickening. Yes, what have I done? He breathed deeply, his eyes flaring with a strange light. Was it madness or some dark thrill? I've protected you from the truth. Can't you appreciate that? All those pretty moments we shared, all of that was a veil. You mean a lie? She shot back, her voice trembling. The air felt thickening with every word, wrapping around her like a spider's web, suffocating and unyielding. Tom's laughter was a blade, slicing through her confidence. No a necessity. With a deliberate motion, he turned to the tarp, pulling it back and revealing the monstrous contents beneath. The horror set her breath wildly in motion, bow rising in her throat. There were shapes, twisted remnants of life and anguish blurred almost beyond recognition. "Tom, please! What is this?" she gasped, stumbling backward, no ground to steady her. "They were my secrets," he said simply, as if commenting on the weather. "But they can be our future if you accept it." Each item in the dim haze painted a disturbing story, turning Lisa's stomach. The photos she had seen skittered across her mind, faces lost to terror, echoing whispers of an unspeakable horror. A chill crept into her bones, settling into the marrow as she fought against a rising panic. "Do you see now? You and the kids, you were all in danger. It was too late for other families. But I thought I could save mine." His voice wavered slightly, revealing hints of something beneath the madness both haunting and hollow. "Save us?" she hissed, incredulous. "By doing this?" He stepped closer, a predator advancing toward prey. "They wanted to take it from us. I had to do what had to be done. I thought you'd understand." With a sudden, sickening twist, the realization clenched around her heart. The man she had loved had slipped into a darkness she could barely comprehend. The foundation of their life together seemed to crack under the weight of his words. "Let me out, Tom. I can't stay here." The menacing whisper of darkness strangled her bravado. "Why would I want to do that?" he replied, tilting his head in mock curiosity. "You're my safety now, Lisa. And besides," he paused, giving her one of those haunting smiles she had once loved, now perverted into something grotesque. "You wouldn't really want to leave, would you?" A violent shudder ran through her as he lunged forward, knife raised, darkness in his eyes. Suddenly, the basement echoed with desperate whispers, the shadows closing in. They spoke to her, urging her, revealing the truth buried beneath layers of fear. Then came a noise, a strange, low moan mingling with the drip of water deep from unseen corners of the basement. It beckoned her attention, disrupting her growing despair. "Tom?" she murmured, torn between confronting him and investigating the sound. Behind her, the shadows flickered, shifting ominously. "Stay focused, Lisa. You can't let the darkness win." But what if the darkness was all that was left? The moaning grew louder, more insistent a call. She couldn't ignore. What lay beyond that hidden door? And somehow, deep down, her instincts told her, it was exactly where she needed to go. "Tom, I'll discover the truth, no matter the cost," she sobbed, turning toward the sound, the basement alive with unseen horrors. But would confronting that truth lead to freedom or her demise? In that chilling, eternal moment, the basement shook, the world outside faded until there was nothing but Lisa, the shadows, and the invitation of the unknown. But was she prepared to face it? Lisa hesitated only for a moment, the dark sound pulling at her, taunting her willpower. She could feel Tom's presence looming behind her, his breath heavy with a warped sense of control, but the moaning wrapped around her like a lifeline. She needed to know what lay in the shadows. With trembling hands, she pressed forward into the gloom. The low, sorrowful wails seemed to swirl around her, tugging at her memories of the life outside this basement. Was there hope hidden within the darkness? As she stepped deeper into the shadows, the air turned cold, biting into her skin, dragging under her fingernails as panic swelled in her chest. The tarps that lined the space felt like layers of secrets waiting to be peeled back, each layer thrumming with a dreadful pulse. "Where are you?" she whispered, squinting into the oppressive shadows. The moaning escalated, a guttural sound mixed with something desperate, almost human. She stumbled upon an old wooden door, its surface scarred and warped. The whispers grew louder. She could almost taste the fear on her tongue. Before she could falter, she grabbed the doorknob, its cold metal sending a shock through her veins. "Lisa, don't!" Tom's voice slashed the air, filled with an urgency that only fueled her resolve. But she turned the knob anyway, wrenching it open. A blast of musty air rushed out, wrapping around her with faint whispers of something long forgotten. Each breath she took was like inhaling oblivion. Inside, the sight was like a grotesque painting hanging in a museum of horrors. The room was cluttered with broken furniture, photographs scattered across the floor. Faces stared back at her, contorted with fear and despair, victims she suddenly recognized. Her heart plummeted as she grabbed a photo that slipped beneath her foot. It was her family, but in this picture, it wasn't them. Their faces were pale, drawn, staring blankly, their mouths forming silent screams. The realization slashed at her heart with a hot blade. "Tom, what did you do to them?" she rasped, hoarsely choking on the words. The truth coiled around her, crushing her spirit. "You were right to question me," he murmured from behind her, voice heavy with the weight of their shared past. "But now you understand they were nothing to me." Just like you, the shift in his tone sent frigid chills cascading down her spine. He stepped into the room, his figure juxtaposed against the flickering light, making him appear almost spectral. Each step he took resonated like a Judgment Day march echoing through the broken remnants of their lives. "And now they'll be part of us." His voice was a dark lullaby, wrapping around her sanity in a strangling embrace. Lisa stumbled back, but the weight of her realization pinned her. "You're a monster!" she spat, every ounce of her belief in him shattered. He smiled, a dark glint in his eyes, knife raised once again. "Monsters survive, dear Lisa. Monsters make choices to protect what they cherish." Then the moaning swelled, a wave crashing over them, drowning out her thoughts. The shadows coalesced, and whimpered, echoing with voices that demanded justice, ghostly remnants of all he had taken, all he had darkened in his twisted ambition. The world began to tilt around her, and suddenly, the shadows pressed in tighter. The photographs seemed to stretch out toward her, hands of lost souls reaching, begging for release. Tom lunged, a dreadful gleam in his eye, but she was faster. Grabbing an old lamp from the floor, she swung it toward him, splintering the darkness with a spray of light as glass shattered. "Help me!" The cry erupted from her throat, a deep panic breaking free as she faced the man she once loved. But who was he now? A loud crash rippled through the basement as the forgotten door behind her swung shut, locking them both in the sickening truth of that room. The moaning intensified, blurring the lines between living and dead, leaving only one horrifying question. In that ghastly moment, she realized, she wasn't just fighting for survival. She was fighting against the echoes of a darkness that wouldn't relent. And in the shadows, a whisper called, "What if your truth is even darker than his?" Would she dare to find out? The lamp shattered into 1,000 sparkling shards, illuminating the room for a fleeting second before plunging them back into darkness. Lisa's heart raced as Tom lunged, but she evaded him, adrenaline sharpening her instincts. Fear coursed through her veins like ice, making her pulse thunder in her ears. "Lisa!" he growled, his voice a twisted blend of desperation and malevolence. "You don't know what you're doing." She dashed past him, the shadows flickering ominously around her. The air was thick, alive with the cries of souls trapped within these walls. Each wail clawed at her sanity, reminding her with every second just how close she was to total despair. With no plan, she sprinted toward the door that had sealed her in. She threw herself against it, rattling the old wood with all her strength. It held firm. The moans intensified, embracing her like a suffocating shroud. "Help me!" she screamed again, but the echoes swallowed her words, drowned in the misery surrounding her. "I can help you," Tom said, his tone shifting to a calm, chilling whisper. "We can unlock what is hidden together. You're meant to understand." "Understand what?" she spat, battling the urge to recoil. "That you're a monster? That you've taken everything from me? Everything?" He laughed, the sound reverberating off the walls, sinister and alive. "You don't even know the half of it. But you will. You're connected to this darkness." A crunch underfoot forced Lisa to glance down. She saw more photographs scattered across the floor, faces distorted in horror. With shaking fingers, she picked one up, this time not of her family. It was an old photograph of a smiling girl, hair flowing, eyes bright. The girl looked so innocent, so carefree. But upon closer inspection, a dreadful truth settled in. There were shadows creeping along the edges of the photograph, subtle but unmistakable. Like her? Tom's voice overcame her horrified thoughts. You could save her, you could save all of them. By becoming you? Lisa felt the bow rise in her throat. You're sick. The shadows quivered as if in witness to her claim. They pulsed around the corners of the room, gathering strength, whispering low with the promise of horrid truths. Only the strong survive, Lisa. You could be more than this, more than just a fleeting life above, he continued. Join me. No. She shook her head violently, denying the lure of his words. But a part of her was fascinated. What if he was right? The thought gnawed at her, fueled by his promises wrapped in darkness. Suddenly, shadows fell heavy around her, swirling as if alive. Their cries became deafening, reaching for her, pulling at her mind, threatening to engulf her whole. Lisa, listen! Out of instinct, she turned, throwing the photograph back at him. It landed at his feet, and in that instant, a scream rippled through the air. The girl in the picture cried out, a shriek so raw it shook the very foundation of Lisa's resolve. Lisa's breath hitched. What is this? Tom's face darkened, rage flickering across his features. You've released her. From the depths, a ghostly figure began to take shape, emerging from the shadows. The girl from the photograph. Her eyes, once full of unfathomable joy, now reflected a haunted despair. Help me, she moaned, a fragile thread of hope weaving into the chaos. Instinct pushed Lisa forward, driven by a desperate need to save another. But as she reached toward the girl, the shadows tightened around her, an invisible web of dread closing in. The whispers grew into a cacophony, their urgency freezing Lisa in place. Tom seized the moment, a twisted smile creeping across his lips. Now you'll see the truth, Lisa. You cannot escape this fate. With one frantic glance back, the girl's shimmering form flickered dangerously on the edge of realization, a haunted plea mixed with torment. Before Lisa could react, a force slammed into her, knocking the breath from her lungs as darkness closed in, echoing laughter resonating through the depths of despair. Was there still a way out? Or had she stepped into a truth too terrible to bear? The shadows hummed, a promise of more horrors to come, and she would have to decide which truths she would ultimately embrace. The world spun in a haze of shadows and despair. Lisa gasped, feeling the cold grip of darkness hold her tighter. The haunting sound of the girl's plea echoed like a death knell in her ears, rendering her paralyzed. Help me, the ghostly figure begged again, her voice a haunting lament that pierced through the chaos. Let her go, Lisa shouted, words lost to a gathering storm of wills. Tom advanced, darkness swirling at his feet, and the girl wavered, her image flickering like a dying light. You don't understand, Tom hissed, his eyes gleaming with something sinister. The darkness is not the enemy, it's the realm of power. Embrace it, and you will save her. Save her? Lisa's voice broke, her heart pounding in a frenzy. You think I can save anyone with your twisted power? The shadows shifted, a living entity filled with tormented souls, shrieking in agony as they clawed at her, begging for release. She felt their pull, their stories intertwining with her own, a tapestry of loss and despair. Panic surged like an electric shock coursing through her body. Lisa, the girl sighed. I need you, please. As if scripted in an ancient ritual, the shadows drew closer, a cold thirst that inked her resolve and fear. This was not just about the girl or Tom. It was about her own fate. Could she ever escape this realm? This nightmare where choices led only to darkness. Tom stepped nearer, his eyes narrowing. You either join me or let her die. It's your choice. Behind him, the girl started to fade, her form battling the encroaching shadows that danced hungrily at the edges of her existence. Lisa felt her breath choke in her throat, the urgency overwhelming. She couldn't let that happen, not again. No! She cried out, fighting back against the tide of despair. The images of her family flooded back, their laughter, their warmth, and she grasped that flicker of hope, even as it trembled on the edge of being snuffed out. The shadows recoiled, wincing at her defiance. So naive, Tom sneered, his grin sharp enough to cut. You cannot fight what you cannot see. In a shocking rush of instinct, Lisa lunged. She broke through the oppressive darkness, aiming to reach the ghostly girl. Fingers stretched toward the flickering image, just a few feet away, and she felt the weight of so many eyes upon her, the lost, the broken, all crammed into this purgatorial space. Take my hand! She yelled, her voice shattering the roar of the shadows. The girl hesitated, caught between realms. You don't know what you're offering. I'd rather face the darkness with you than let you fade, Lisa replied, her heart racing as she felt the connection pulse between them. Join us, the shadows hissed, the voice a chorus of rage and desperation, and Lisa could feel their grip tightening around her, digging deep into her skin. In a heartbeat, she made her choice. Lisa plunged forward, her hands clashing with the shadowy depths. The impact jolted through her body like ice water, a shock that both terrified and invigorated. Bright lights fizzled from her fingertips, sparking against the encroaching shadows. Lisa! Tom bellowed, rage twisting his features into a monstrous mask. You've chosen wrong! But there was no time to think. The darkness screamed in protest, as her energy met the shadows, blinding her vision with a blast of light. The girl's figure solidified, her eyes wide with disbelief. You chose me! As figures limbed and shadows convulsed around them, desperation mingled with an unexpected sense of power swelling in Lisa's veins. Just when it seemed she might prevail, something thunderous erupted beneath, an unseen force shaking the very foundation of their reality. What is happening? She shouted, her voice trembling against the rising chaos. Cracks split open the walls, shadows fracturing as they swirled into a maelstrom. Lisa felt the very fabric of the room splinter. The girl clutched her hand tightly, fear anchoring them both but also igniting a spark of rebellion within her. Hold on! The girl screamed. The darkness roared, twisting violently in response. With each second that passed, the world around them began to tear apart, the air thick with impending doom. Would they fall into the abyss or find a way to shatter the dark grip forever? The shadows pulsated a savage rhythm, swallowing the light whole as the ground beneath her feet ephemeralized into a vast blackness. All around, figures wailed, their cries mixing with the creaking of the room collapsing. The question lingered, suspended in fear, what lay on the other side of that darkness? The earth shook violently, reverberating deep within Lisa's bones. The dark corners of the room twisted and writhed, vapor-like, as shadows clawed at her, hungry and desperate. Light flickered erratically like a dying flame, and reality warped under the chaos. Stay with me! Lisa shouted, drawing the girl closer, their fingers interlocked, a fragile thread of hope tethered against an impending abyss. The shadows screamed in anguish, a cacophony of pain that seemed to draw strength from fear. Lisa's heart raced as the ground split open, a deep chasm yawned wide beneath them, threatening to swallow them whole. Lisa, we have to, the girl began, panic creeping into her tone. No! Lisa interrupted. We can't leave! Not now! But even she questioned their survival. Above the swirling darkness, Tom's face twisted into a grotesque mask, his laughter echoing unnaturally, a cruel wind laced with malice. You're losing her. You'll never be strong enough to face the truth. Shut up! She yelled, adrenaline surging. I'm not afraid of you. The shadows bucked, attacking with renewed fervor as if stung by her defiance. Lisa focused on the warmth of the girl's hand, something tangible amid the chaos. Yet the chill of dread seeped back in, whispering to her, seeping into her mind. What would happen if she let go? Would she lose everything, her family, her life, the girl? The girl's voice broke through the turmoil. I'm slipping, Lisa. I can feel it. Desperation clung to her words. An icy wave washed over Lisa, squeezing the air from her lungs. No! You have to fight! But the girl's form flickered, her eyes glazed over like a fading memory, and Lisa's spirit sunk in despair. Embrace it! Tom called again, the shadows rippling with his insistence. Join me, and we can be powerful together. Lisa shook her head, unwilling to yield. That power is a lie. It'll consume you. The dimensional rift beneath them roared, pulling at the edges of her consciousness. The very concept of solid ground disintegrated, and the shadows danced like ravenous beasts above her. The girl's grip was tightening, but with each moment, her presence felt lighter, as if she was being drawn into the pull of the darkness. I'm here, Lisa promised, not even sure who she was trying to convince. Suddenly, a brilliant light burst forth, brilliant and painful, igniting the shadows like wildfire. Lisa squinted against the glare, feeling warmth spread from her fingertips. We can do this. Just hold on. The shadows shrieked, recoiling from the unexpected power surging forth. For a moment, she felt everything aligning: the girl, the light, the hope. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. The shadows recoiled but quickly organized into a formidable wave, a smothering tide that threatened to engulf them. Let the darkness win, it crooned, a seductive whisper that promised safety in surrender. Join us. Her eyes darted toward the crack beneath the floor. A mere sliver opened up below, revealing endless void. They were losing ground, and she was losing the girl. I won't give up! Lisa screamed defiantly, the raw energy spiraling from her body coalescing into dazzling chaos around them, illuminating the ruins of their dark prison. Your family can't save you! Tom shouted, his voice tainted with dark victory. Only the darkness can protect your soul. But Lisa's heart thumped wildly against the chains of fear. She could almost see their faces, her parents, her brother, warm and full of life. No! They needed her. She could feel their energy surrounding her, a warmth that contrasted the ice within the shadows. I love you! She shouted into the void, the declaration cutting through the torrent. As if her heart broke open, a surge of pure light exploded from her, radiating in pulses that fought the tendrils of dark. The girl's eyes sparkled, reflecting the light, and Lisa felt them both lifted high, suspended between hope and despair, between two worlds. Fight it with me! Lisa pleaded, and in that moment the girl seemed to understand. Together, they filled the air with shimmering brilliance. Just when victory felt within reach, the shadows screamed, and darkness folded in on itself, creating a monstrous figure that loomed tall and terrifying. Tom's eyes glinted maliciously as he morphed into something otherworldly, a grotesque villain born from despair. Your light cannot reach this darkness. It was an unbearable moment, suspended in fear. Would light prove stronger than despair? Would they break free, or would they be swallowed into the void? Time slowed as the darkness closed in, and a horrifying question filled the air. Had they made a grave mistake by confronting the shadows, or would their determination shatter the nightmare once and for all? The oppressive darkness filled every crevice of the room, thick enough to swallow screams. Lisa's heart raced, pounding like a drum in the sinister silence that lingered after Tom's monstrous transformation. She clutched the girl's hand tighter, willing her strength into their fragile connection, a beacon in the abyss. Step forward! Tom's voice reverberated, twisting through the shadows like a nightmare made flesh. He loomed larger, a grotesque parody of a friend, his eyes two shining voids that drank in the light. Don't listen! Lisa yelled, adrenaline churning in her stomach like acid. She felt her courage strain against the weight of his presence. We have to keep fighting. But the girl trembled, her vibrant gaze dimming, the flicker of hope in her eyes fading like a candle in a storm. I can't hold on much longer, Lisa, she whispered, fear lacing her words. What if we can't win? No! No! You're stronger than that! Lisa roared, but doubt seeped into her veins. What if they were too late? What if surrendering to Tom's darkness was the only way to breathe again? The shadows writhed below them, forming serrated edges, as if the ground itself turned on them, a frightened animal turning against its captor. You will join me, little light! Tom chuckled, his laugh like shards of glass. Embrace despair, and I shall grant you power like you've never known. Lisa's breaths quickened, a tight knot of panic blocking her throat. She cast her eyes into the girl's, seeking reassurance. Together, they had summoned a light once. Could they do it again? Then everything shifted. The ground beneath them shuddered intensely, rocks splitting and crumbling. From below, a low growl rumbled, like the belly of a beast awakening from a long slumber. The shadows hissed in a chilling chorus, flickering with malicious intent. "Keep your light close," Lisa shouted, determination rising as her palms began to glow again, a fury ignited from the pit of her belly. The shadows recoiled a fraction, but they weren't defeated. She felt her energy draining, but she ignited every spark of hope she had left. "Fight with me. You are not alone," she implored, her voice nearly drowning in the cacophony of despair. The girl hesitated, eyes darting from Lisa's face to the monstrous figure threatening to consume them. In that heavy moment, she saw a glimmer of belief spark back to life. I'm still here," the girl steadied herself, courage burgeoning as she wrapped her fingers more firmly around Lisa's. "Let us do this." The shadows screeched, shrill and desperate. "Defiance is futile," Tom roared, extending a dark hand toward them, tendrils of darkness curling around his fingers like living smoke. But Lisa and the girl stood as one, their light brightening in defiance of the darkness. Together, they directed all their energy toward that terrible figure, flames of incandescent brilliance erupting from their palms, mixing like paint in a canvas of terror. Together, they screamed, and a pulse of pure, blinding light surged from their joined hands, searing through the encroaching shadows. For a brief moment, it seemed to work. Tom staggered back, his monstrous form flickering, losing definition in the brightness. "No!" he howled, a sound full of anger and fear, battered by the potency of their bond. But the shadows retaliated, coiling back against the light as the torrent of darkness swirled frantically. "You think this power will save you?" Tom sneered, reforming his figure amidst the chaos. The shadows thickened and surged, choking the light they had built. Suddenly, the floor beneath Lisa cracked open wider, a gaping maw revealing a vast, swirling void that promised an eternity of anguish. It beckoned as if to swallow them whole, the gravitational weight of despair pulling them down. "What is happening?" the girl cried out, panic straining her voice. First darkness fell, then their very connection began to slip. Lisa felt the icy fingers of oblivion claw at her, unrelenting. "We have to push harder," she shouted, her voice breaking under pressure. But then, there was a second surge from Tom, and reality splintered. Shadows stretched and warped, forming grotesque faces that twisted along the edges of her vision, dark, anguished echoes of those they had lost. "Join us," they called out, as if dragging the very souls of the lost into their misery. There was no escape, and now they faced the horror of their own memories. Would they break from the chains of desperation, or were they destined to spiral into a darkness not even their light could combat? As the very ground vaporized beneath them, a chilling revelation circled above a truth that no one could understand. What if the darkness wanted them to fight? Would they become the shadows themselves? The darkness surged, a living entity desperate to consume every last flicker of defiance. Lisa felt her resolve teeter on the brink of collapse, the shadows now pushing against her mind, wrapping around her spirit like a vice. The memory of her family and the warmth of their love echoed faintly, but fear and despair threatened to drown it out. "Fight, Lisa! Do not let them take you!" The girl's voice trembled with urgency, cutting through the haze of the nightmarish world around them. Lisa clenched her eyes shut, drawing in a deep breath, summoning the remnants of her strength, as if pulling energy from her very soul. "No!" she shouted, lifting her chin defiantly, her voice carving through the chaos. It felt like a lifetime, but she remembered their laughter, the joy, and the bond they shared. "I refuse to let you win." With renewed fervor, she extended her light, merging it with the girl's. Together, they wove a tapestry of brilliance, a roaring beacon against the encroaching abyss. The shadows lunged, but they met an unyielding force. A blinding pulse erupted, radiating from their entwined hands, illuminating the hellish landscape. "Together!" Lisa cried, her voice echoing as power surged through them. The shadows recoiled, twisting back like mist caught in an updraft. Tom's monstrous form flickered violently, caught in the brilliant light. "No! You dare!" His voice trembled with an unholy rage, But it was too late. Their light surged forth like a tidal wave, shattering the darkness into fractals. A brilliant explosion of luminescence swallowed the room, knocking loose the weight of despair and the echoes of loss. Lisa felt the ground beneath her shift, but this time, the sensation was freeing. The shadows faded, for her love was a weapon strong enough to sever them from their ties. The girl's eyes sparkled, returning to their radiant hue. "You did it!" "Not yet!" Lisa shouted, fueled by the relief spreading through her veins. The shadows were retreating, but Tom was still there, and his rage echoed through the void. "You think this is over?" he lashed out, darkness swirling back to him, coalescing into a tempest ready to retaliate. His monstrous form flickered, sighing, rippling with shadows that sought revenge. "You cannot escape." "Yes, we can!" Lisa screamed, gathering every ounce of courage from the depths of her being. "We are not afraid of you. You're just a fading memory." With that, she summoned every flicker of light within her, feeling it ripple through her being like a rising tide. The darkness shrieked as it opened wide, swallowing shadows whole, dissipating their power like mist under the sun. She surged forward, a battle cry bursting forth. "You will not take my family! You will not take our happiness!" In a cascading wave, the light exploded in a spiraling arc, filling the room with warmth, as the shadows thudded outward in retreat. Tom's monstrous form twisted in despair as his laughter turned to howls of anguish. "No! I am eternal! Not anymore!" With one last burst of power, Lisa reached out for the girl beside her, their hands molded together in a grounding grip. They jumped into the light, slipping through the last fissures of darkness. The basement imploded in a final flash, and it felt like free-falling through a captivating dream. When the light finally surrendered, the world around them shifted. They landed with a soft thud, the warm light bathing their surroundings, a sunlit field bursting with flowers, laughter echoing in the distance. Time felt like nothing, no shadows clinging to their backs, just freedom embraced in the glow of a beautiful day. The girl turned towards Lisa, her eyes shimmering with gratitude. "You saved us." Lisa shook her head, a smile stretching across her lips. "No, we saved each other." Suddenly, the echo of familiar voices filled the air. A fleeting memory danced in her heart, a whisper of her children, laughter like notes of a sweet melody. "Mom!" Eric's voice rang through the field, vivid and joyful. "Mia!" she cried out, tears of relief filling her eyes. Moments later, her children appeared, sprinting towards her, radiating joy and love. "Mom! You're here!" they shouted, their faces cherubic in the warm sunlight. "My babies!" In an instant, Lisa engulfed them in a hug, their warmth wrapping around her like a protective cocoon, dispelling any remnants of darkness. And although Tom's shadow still licked at the edges of her heart, she knew she was free to cherish every moment, free to love without fear. The shadows would linger in the corners of memories, but they no longer held power over her. This moment was hers to grasp, to protect, to embrace. As the sun set, painting the sky in warm colors of pink and gold, Lisa took a deep breath, finally releasing the fear that had consumed her for so long. She watched as her children ran and danced, joy spilling from their smiles like sunlight. All was right in her world. And now, as she stood encircled in the vibrancy of life and love, she whispered into the softening breeze, "Never again." You need to subscribe now so you won't miss out on our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to help feed the algorithm, showing your support for the channel. I want to hear from you, so flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this thrilling conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Let us keep this community thriving.